There's not a common sense that we all collectively grow up with. It is, we all come into these classrooms required, and there are a lot of different behaviors and a lot of different ways that people handle things. When we get kids and people in our classrooms, there are unseen burdens. And some of the burdens that are going on are, we can't even fathom them. We've never even seen it on a Netflix show, right? Some of these kids are walking through so much. And unfortunately, that word burden is really important because so many people from a very young age begin thinking that they are a burden and that they are too much. They are too emotional and people can't handle them, right? And I think that if we were all to do that, agree, I think a lot of us can agree that we ourselves sometimes feel like we are a burden. And we're always helping other people, but we don't necessarily know how to help ourselves or even ask for help. And so I guess what I would like to tell you and what I would like to remind you to tell other people is that you are not a burden and you are not too much. You are just enough. And I'm really glad that you're here. So I think that sometimes we think we're saying that. And I think sometimes what happens is that there's sometimes a nonverbal message that can come across to these little people, to these younger people, even our staff that we work with. And the nonverbal messages can accidentally say that you're a burden, right? It's the kid that comes in late, and it's the sigh or the breath that anyone in the room could make, or it's the side eye, or it's you're not even having a place to sit, to come in, to not know what to do. Immediately, you're just feeling like a burden. So I guess being really mindful of those nonverbal messages. And my thought here is that a lot of us, we have fight, flight, fawn, and freeze responses with our amygdalas, right? And so sometimes when people come in with burdens and they have traumas, they can't even control how it comes up and the way it's going to come out. It could come out yelling, it could come out screaming, it could come out quiet, it could come out that they're trying to make you feel better about it. But the unfortunate part of having things go on in your life and feeling like a burden is that the trauma is so thick that it impacts a lot of these kids' abilities to establish and maintain healthy relationships. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to regulate inside of their bodies. And it can feel really, really personal because our jobs are to go in there and make connections and help kids move through these things. But the very things that are happening to them are causing it so that we can't connect. And so it can just feel so personal, right? And we've tried everything. And there really are skills and tricks and strategies that we can employ to start making things feel better. And at the heart of it, kids want to connect. They want to be close with you, and you want to be close with them, right? It's just really hard because sometimes a good kid has a really bad day. I At the heart of it, I keep saying at the heart of it, so I'm going to pause on that. Regulation skills are what we're really going to be thinking about and talking about. Regulation skills, so that we can do something about these high rates of anxiety and depression and social isolation, the pressure from all the academics that they're going through. And they're just incredibly vulnerable and raw. And what we're trying to do is to help them build a tolerance of sorts, right? They come into our classrooms, they come into our school environments, and I guess like a learning lab, right? And we don't really know anything about what's going on for them until we get access and they share it with us, or we read a file or something like that. And mostly what it is it's the relationship and it's the interaction and it's the time in the classroom. And we have to know that the behavior that we are seeing is communication. And when we're communicating, right, in these learning labs, in our classrooms, we are constantly trying to take kids from knowing things, and they have to start at not knowing. So you have a not knowing, and then you have a knowing, and then you have this space in between. It's their bandwidth, it's their level of frustration ability, it's the skill set that they have in order to get from not knowing something to knowing. And because of their brains, because of the the automaticity of the reactions with the amygdala, they're not always getting to choose the responses. But what we're trying to do is to move forward. So behavior as communication. They are giving us bids for connection, right? And the bids for connection can be wild. They can be very kind, they can be sweet, but they can be aggressive, they can be scary, they can be silent. But they're all over the place. They are showing us the ways that they have successfully either gotten attention, avoided attention, or maintained attention. And it is either adaptive or it is maladaptive or it's somewhere kind of in between, right? Or they don't even know. They may not even know what is causing them to have friends or connections, or they don't know what's causing people to pull away or to have, resistance to who they are. So when we are looking at the behaviors, right, to suspend the certainty that they're doing this to be jerks to you, that they're doing this on purpose, and to switch it and be like, what happened? What happened to you? What is going on, right? So we know that there are signs and we know that there are symptoms that kids exhibit, just like you. You have signs and symptoms that you exhibit when you are about to hot mess or you're having a difficult time. And sometimes you don't even know your signs and symptoms for years until you start taking data. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's linked to this, and I notice this, and when I sleep, or when my cycle starts, or da-da-da-da-da. You start to notice the data, but there's skills and strategies that somebody taught you, and then you're starting to pay attention to your own rhythms and your patterns. And speaking of rhythms and patterns, right, before we go into our groups and we do this little activity that we're gonna do, I want you to understand you are not alone in this. You're not supposed to be alone. You are not the only person in this person's life, right? And you have to rely on a team of people around you. And with that, right, if you see a pattern, and I'm going to call it 2 or 3 times, if you see something, a behavior, a way of talking, the same clothing, anything, 2 to 3 times in a row, you're starting to see a pattern, document, document, document. And you know why you're going to document? Because it's really easy to forget things. It's not to bust people. It's not to prove you're right. Or I don't know, there's a lot of different reasons. It's to just get your finger on the pulse of what's going on. It's to start to get some data points in your room. And then later, when people are like, well, how long has this been going on? You can actually say, well, what have you tried? Well, I've tried this, right? You document, document, document. I'm not talking about some special form that you have to turn in. I'm talking about get a legal pad, right? And you keep it confidential and keep it safe. But if you're starting to notice and you have questions, start taking some data and then take it to someone, right? Whether it's your school support team, I don't know what they call things anymore. I don't know if it's an SST or an MTSS or whatever it's going to be, but when you can have in your hot little hand data, it's like when you have something going on for you and you actually do have some information about what you think is going on and you're trying to empower yourself to go to that person and say, I've noticed this, this, and this. Can you help me identify more? You are not meant to manage crisis on your own, right? When we were born, we were completely 100 million% dependent on everyone else around us, right? And that doesn't stop just because you're older. You are going to need help and you're encouraged. We have got to change the culture of help seeking, and that starts with us, right? So I know you know who the people are. They're your administrators. They're the special education teachers. They are the counselors. They are the operators of the 504, right? Social workers, mental health staff. In my high school, the drug and alcohol counselors, right? Sometimes we don't even realize the resources that we have in our own building because we are so busy doing it all ourselves, right? We're so busy with the load that we forget that there are people who are waiting to help us, especially this year, right? There are people. So document. We want to get the kid what they need, and that's the point of it. So we're going to talk about signs and symptoms of students who struggle. And I can sit here and I can read to you my little list of it, but what I want to start with is I want to get you in breaks. break rooms. And I want you with 4 other people. And I want you to go inside of yourself and I want you to say, what do you know? Is it, I'm not even going to give you any ideas because I have them. But what do you see when you know someone is struggling? And if you're willing, what did it look like when you were struggling and people missed it, right? And I figure how many people, we're like 34 strong, right? And if we can all get into these little groups for just 5 or so minutes, how about 6, 7? 6 or 7 minutes, we'll go in there. And if one person in the group could be the capturer of ideas, by the end of the time, we will have so many great signs and symptoms, right? And unseens. And okay, I've got to talk to you about these people. The high functioning people? The people who, I love that Brandon is shaking her head because I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are the kids and us who on the outside, we're fine. We do it, we get your work done, we turn it in, it's beautiful, it's great, right? But because they're so good at making it look like it's no problem, we have no idea of how hard they're working on the inside. So guess what happens to the kids when they go home? They lid flip, right? And so like families are seeing a different version than we're seeing, right? So please remember, our very high functioning, very high performing, quiet people, what does it look like when they're struggling? Because they do, right? So in groups, I want you to, I did say that I wanted you to organize by your birth dates, and the person with the closest birthday to January would talk first. But you don't have to do that. You can go in there and just take turns, one at a time, if you feel comfortable.
このゲームできないね、本当に。全然できない。どこまでやるかよくわかんない。今、実はね、今やってる理由はね、自分のためじゃなくて、他の人がやってほしいから、やってほしいから、やってるのを楽しみにしてる。そのためだけ。でも自分のためじゃないね。Okay. So. Do we have to get okay?違うね。どうやってやったっけ？なんか1個でこれできる。でも忘れた。あ。